Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Great Awakening Generator. I'm your host, Rose McNair, and today I have with me Greg Doyle. Hello, Greg.
Hi, Rose. Great to be here.
Thank you for joining me today. I'm so excited that you gave us your time. You're a very multi-skilled, multi-talented individual, and I was quite fascinated when Phil suggested I talk with you. So, everyone, I want to tell you a little bit about Greg, and then he's going to tell you all about himself. All right. So Greg is a musician, and he has traveled all over the world as part of his skills in an orchestra. I'm told. Is that right? Classical
Yeah.
music.
I was a violinist, and then I got into conducting early. So I went to actually went to Austria to Vienna to study conducting many years ago.
We're going to come back to that, and I just want to finish telling everybody before I ask the next question more about you. So Greg is a Reiki therapist, an astral traveler, and an author. He's written the book, Awakening the Giant Within. So I've told everybody your titles. Greg, please tell us a little bit about yourself, or a lot about yourself, because you've got such a fascinating history, and I think you've got such a fascinating offering to the collective. And also, please include your career as a musician in there.
Yeah, well, it was interesting the whole way this new kind of career for me has launched, because I was living in Vienna, as I said, and this was like in the late 1990s, and I'd always been to meditation. I remember I got given a great book by Ainsley Mears. There's a great book called Relief Without Drugs. It's just a basic meditation book, just to sit down and get rid of stress. And as a musician, as a performing artist, stage fright is a real thing, because you're having to perform. And I always thought this is really weird when I have nerves when I play, and I want to play my best. But this little book was so profound. I remember, just telling friends, like, I can't believe this. I can be tense, I meditate for 10 minutes, and then I'm not as tense later. And for some reason, I found that profound. People would find that simplistic. All my friends thought I was crazy. But that started in my early 20s. So I was into meditation, not for any kind of spiritual result or reason, not consciously. I just meditated to feel good.
Yeah.
And I was a very stressed kind of, I liked being stressed. People used to say, Greg, you're very tense. And I go, I know, I like it. And it was the kind of thing, I got into conducting. I loved music. The music profession, like any profession, any institutional profession, can get quite trying. It ends up being people management, and
yeah,
which was tricky. And look, I loved it. But then when I had this was in 1999, I had my first what I'd call astral experience. At the time, I didn't know it was an astral experience. So I was living in Vienna. Just before dawn. I'll never forget this. It's like it's etched onto a memory drive that is never forgetting, and very clear. So often this can happen too. It often happens generally just before dawn. So just before dawn, this light comes into my forehead, and at this stage, I never heard the expression third eye. I wasn't into, the so-called New Age stuff at all. I just remember this light coming in, and it seemed to collect all these fragments of like triangles behind my closed eyes. So this light woke me up. Essentially, I was asleep. My body was asleep, but my mind became very lucid. And that was kind of the hallmark of what was to follow.
Yes.
So that's what now, I train people with. So this light came in. It was like pulsating in my forehead. I was totally conscious that my body's asleep. What's going on? Quite a weird phenomenon the first time. And then also, but this energy also came into my heart. It made me feel really good. So also one of the hallmarks of an astral experience is this feeling of, kind of spaciousness, of bliss. And it was like an ecstatic feeling that I never felt before. It really was, looking back, of course, it was a spiritual thing. But at the time, I just thought, well, this feels great. And it was like this light was beckoning me, like inviting me to go with it. And as I was feeling really good, because it was making me feel very good in my heart region. And I since found out, of course, that the heart chakra is the principal driver of the astral experience. So that's the one we often focus on. So
Okay.
then I launched out of body, and it was really bizarre that first time. It was this. So I'm literally flying down through this light, and it's the classic wormhole experience. And I only say classic wormhole experience after discovering that such an experience exists about a week later after this first experience, when I came upon this movie Contact with Jodie Foster, great movie. And I just happened to pick this. I wasn't really into sci-fi, and in this movie with Jodie Foster, she goes down a wormhole. That was the only reason I would have called this a wormhole, because that's exactly what it was. That kind of
Yes.
um, light, and it had like sections, and it was moving. I was turning very quickly. That first experience, I had no body. It was like I was just going down this tunnel. I could feel the wind in my ears. Often they call it the astral wind, which is interesting, even though I had no ears. But that's what it felt like. And a lot of pressure on my third eye, on my
Right.
forehead. And then I ended up popping out in the atmosphere of a very modern sci-fi city. And the thing was, and to this day, I've kind of kept that detachment. I was so amazed at how clear everything was. Okay, sure, there were these buildings, structures that were not of Earth. It was like in a desert kind of environment, but these were very, very tall towers with big kind of dome-like structures on top and lots of lights on. Like it looked like really modern kind of skyscrapers, really very, very modern
Yeah.
skyscrapers.
Yeah.
It didn't
Yeah.
feel like planet Earth. There was no greenery. It was,
Mm.
and the thing was, it was so realistic. This is what got me, this incredible realism that here I am hovering about 100 feet above the ground, looking around at these structures. I had this incredible feeling of home. I knew that,
Okay.
hey, okay, this, and I also had the feeling of they exist. There are others, right? Now, and this was a very strong feeling. After, in the beginning, I kind of questioned the experience, but then later on, because I had so many follow-up experiences, after a while, you don't question the knowing. But this was
Yeah.
the very first one. And also, I remember when I came back to my body, I had this incredible, like I remember crying, that there was this ecstatic feeling. I just remember thinking, what on earth was that about?
Yeah. Wow. Wow. That's something that would have freaked me out.
Yeah, yeah, and it should have freaked me out too. I think the reason,
Yeah.
because of it, I felt so good in my heart. So the energy, as I said, this light that came in my heart.
Yes.
But the very next night, as soon as I closed my eyes, I hadn't even gone to sleep. I was just closing my eyes. The light came straight away. I'd open my eyes, the light would go. Close my eyes, there was the light. And
Okay.
that was scary.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
I I didn't have a reference point. I didn't know that this was astral travel. I didn't know
Mm.
what it was. All I knew was
Yeah.
there was a light pulling me out of my body.
Yeah.
That as soon as I closed my eyes, it's there. And so that second night, I was, kind of too scared to sleep, uh,
Can imagine. Yeah.
just because it was new. And then,
Mm.
look, many experiences would have followed, but it took me a little while to realize. I remember somebody gave me a book called
Yeah.
Soul Work, and then I realized, and that was also called Astral Travel. So it took me
Yes.
a while to label this experience. It took me a couple of months.
Right.
to
Okay. Okay.
Label. It was bizarre.
Wow.
Hmm.
Mm. So some of your sound is cutting out a little bit for us, Greg. Maybe we need to use the headset. I'm sorry. It
Hold
just
on.
sorry about that. I just thought we missed the name of the book you've given us. It didn't come through.
Okay, yeah. It was called Relief Without Drugs by Ainsley Mears.
Okay. Okay.
He's a brain psychiatrist. I think he traveled to the East and he had done all this meditation, and he come back and put it in kind of a Western format, saying, look, you can just sit in a chair and just
Yeah.
was simply, and to this day, that is my kind of my passion, is just still to meditate, just to relax the body and relax
Mm. Yes.
present in almost what I call that third state, where you are observing your body and mind.
Yes. Yes.
and it seems that that gives you that purchase for the astral experience. So to cultivate what I call that third state of awareness,
Mm-hmm.
and you
Yeah.
become very detached. Um,
Okay.
and I think what the astral experience has taught me over the time, if I jump in the deep end a little bit, is this sense of detachment, not cold hardness, but a sense of detachment that, I don't know, it's kind of like, you know that you're not going to not exist. You know that, okay, you may die physically, but you know that you don't die as a soul. This is
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
and you experience past lives and things like this, and you talk to your higher self and you meet guides. I mean, it's very colorful. It's,
Mm.
I never would have imagined. It is stranger than fiction.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, Greg, thank you so much for telling us so far about your experience with astral travel, or the beginnings of it for you. We're going to come back to that because that's really what our topic is about today. But I just want to go to this part about being a musician and then becoming a Reiki therapist. And how does that happen?
Yeah, look, I would have had no interest in that. And in fact, a lot of ex-colleagues, musicians, were quite shocked later on when they met me again and they learned that I'd gone to Reiki. I think after the astral experiences, because I had a whole spate of these early on,
Yeah.
I just, it kind of took me that way, and I became obsessed with my hands. It's funny because as a conductor, you're moving your hands and you're playing with vibration, and very much the astral experience is all about vibration. So, and I got this, yeah, I just started to get really interested in, I remember there's a great book called, by Barbara Brennan, called um, the, the Healing Hands. And it was a really, really good book. So I just became obsessed in that. I just had this feeling that I've got to use my hands for something other than music. And
Right.
yeah, and then I remember before leaving Australia, because not soon, quite a few months after the astral thing started to happen, I found myself a Reiki teacher in Vienna, and I just thought, look, I'll just do it. I want to get into this healing thing. So that was what took me there, you know.
Yeah. So that's been quite a while, and you've been operating in this capacity for how long
Over 20 years.
now? Okay. Okay. And how did the idea to write the book come about? Because
Ah,
for the benefit of our audience, the book is called Awakening the Giant Within. So,
exactly.
yes, so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, it is interesting, isn't it? So I was living in Melbourne, and I was still doing a bit of music, right? And I'd gone into a bit of music and doing a bit of Reiki on the side. I just noticed when people would often say to me, "Oh, what are you doing?" And I kind of wasn't really happy. I wanted to get what, because I was doing all this meditation, having these experiences, and start on the Reiki. I found that I was, like, my workplace had become, to me, a little bit toxic. I was having issues with my boss. I was probably a bit of
Mm,
a vigilant employee. I just couldn't do. With all these astral experiences, they forced me to be really authentic. I just couldn't stop being authentic, which
yes.
often doesn't work in institutions.
No.
And I really would watch myself, like even at the very end of my musical career, you know, and this, it wasn't a coincidence. I really felt this feeling that after the astral experiences started, I just started saying the wrong things to the wrong people at the wrong time. And I could just feel there's something going on. And I remember the last time I conducted, I actually felt these invisible hands pulling at my conducting hands, pulling away. I could feel it. And it was really stressful getting through the performance. I knew I had to go this other way. So the book came about. So I'd started Reiki, but I hadn't told people about my astral experiences because I thought people might think I'm crazy,
Yeah.
right? And I kept it to myself, just a few friends. And then in about 2011, so I didn't write the book that long ago, I suffered an interesting experience. I was meditating, and then I felt this little tweak in the back of my left brain. It wasn't unpleasant. But I came out and said to my wife, look, something's happened. I couldn't actually put a sentence together. I couldn't
Yeah.
properly Later on, when I got concussion a few years later, I did get it checked out, and they said, look, there's no lesions. It wasn't a mini stroke. What I found was this: so I would have to rehearse the names of my colleagues where I was still doing music. I would have to rehearse conversations. I would have to rehearse the names of my family members. It was that bad, right?
Okay.
But the offshoot of it was that also the narrator was kicked out of my mind. I had silence, radio silence in my mind, which was very pleasant.
Mm. Mm.
And I've still got that to this day. So we had the opportunity, my wife and I, to leave Melbourne and go to Spain for a couple of years. So I thought, I can't really talk properly anyway. I'm going to go. And I started writing the book as a therapy because you have to get from one end of the sentence to the other. You have to find the words.
That's right.
And what came out was my story.
Wow. 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 That's
That's
awesome.
why I wrote it.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the story about awakening the giant within you.
That's right. And within everyone, I just look, this the whole astral thing, the whole way it took me, the whole direction, the whole letting go, the whole surrendering to something greater than yourself, the whole knowing that the experience is guided. You kind of, in the end, it became like I felt I was being pulled along. And I still do to this day. I feel that I'm almost not here. I'm not doing anything. It just sort of comes through you.
Ah,
And funny enough, in the astral, when you speak to beings in the astral, all of it's telepathic. All telepathic. You never speak orally. So, so if I were talking to you in the astral, when you speak, I would be pulling through from your crown what it is that you have to say on that topic, and then when I speak, you would be pulling through my crown what I have to say on that topic. So often when I talk to people in the astral, I'd be a lot wiser than I really was, or than I really
yeah.
am
Yeah.
as a
Yeah.
mortal. You know?
Yeah.
Like things that would come out. I mean, and it was this feeling of effortlessness, and it made me realize that my whole life had been a push, 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 push. I was Capricorn. I used to headbutt the wall, but I knew that, in terms of career and everything, but I knew that there was something much gentler, softer, easier um, underneath it all. And I really did learn the path of least resistance with this whole astral experience. And
Yes.
that does not mean copying out. That does not mean being lazy. That doesn't, it's, it's just an ease of living and an ease of what you are and being yourself and not being afraid of
Mm.
yourself. And I guess knowing on an existential level that you cannot not exist. And
Yeah.
early on, I was brought up a Catholic. I didn't believe in past lives. I didn't really believe in anything, but
Mm.
was shown these things in the astral, and shown my own death in this body and shown that I live on and shown all these things that I didn't ask to see.
Yes. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. So we're coming back to the astral travel now. So I've heard of astral travel. Many of us would have heard of astral travel. But seeing that you've written the book and you've had such a long time experience and a profound experience, and you were sought out, if anything, tell us, what is astral travel?
Well, that's a good question. Look, it really is. Look, it seems that we all do leave our bodies at some point during the night. So essentially, we tend to go in the dream realms or the astral realms. When we say astral travel too, we mean loosely, not just we go into other realms, we can go into higher realms as well. So astral travel, what we call it these days, is really becoming conscious of doing that. So becoming conscious when you leave your body. So it's not an add-on. This is what I tell everybody that I train. We really train in letting go of the blockages of this, because I think to myself, why do people not remember? Why do people not know? What is this whole idea of a mind asleep, body asleep? What is that?
Mm.
Why have we been programmed so? And I'm writing a fiction book at the moment. It's fun, actually, like a spiritual adventure, I guess. And it goes into the notion that we actually had these experiences a long time ago. We were all able to do this, and we were able to, explore the different interdimensional realms consciously, but through our society and through certain processes, we've kind of lost that ability. So I think within me, it was just awakened. I wouldn't have, look, when it was really funny, because I wrote that book, I came back to Australia, I moved to Brisbane. And then after a while, people started contacting me, they'd read my book and they said, oh, can you teach it? And I was saying, I don't know. Let's see. And then I was finding that people, I'd be teaching people and they were having experiences. And I thought, well, they seem to be having positive experiences. Because I remember the first time I did a workshop, all these people came in and I looked at them very suspiciously, because I looked at them and thought, who are you? Why would you come to and I even said, why would you come to an astral travel workshop? How have you heard of this? I'd never heard of astral travel.
Yeah.
I would never have wanted to do that, I don't think. But what I've got to say, getting back to your idea of the definition, it's a more loving process than people believe. There's a lot of fear
Yes.
that is spun around astral travel, and maybe that's part of, certain agendas, as there are to keep us unconscious. It's very loving. I mean, I know that it's guided experience, that there are beings there when you go out, and once you get over the shock of it, it's look like a little kid, like you bump your head in this reality. And so when you get out in the astral, often in the lower, what they call the lower astral, there's threshold entities, and often these entities, they're just archetypal. Often they mirror any kind of trauma or blockage we have.
Okay.
And once you see that, in the beginning, I'd be swearing at them, I'd be whacking them, I'd be hilarious little monsters. And you kind of, what I found is you release the trauma within you of that experience. So
Okay.
the best thing of the astral experience is that it's firsthand experiential experience of your traumatized state. To be human is to be traumatized. We have an
Yes.
emotional body that gets charged. So you release that charge every time you go out. It's the quickest healing I know. And it's automatic, as soon as you experience something, it's like you see an aspect of yourself. And I remember one time blasting away from the earth, and there was this phenomenal band of fear I entered into, and I thought, and I'd say would probably be around the area of the Van Halen belt, which is around the earth, which is a radioactive belt. I'd say this would correspond with that. When I hit that, I felt this incredible wave of fear. When I realized it wasn't my fear, but it was the collective fear, it released me.
Okay.
To go further. So these recognitions are immediate in the astral, and you move to have them. You just have them. You don't look for them. You don't intellectualize. You don't rationalize. It's a visceral experience. So the astral is more almost physical than this physical experience. Everything is united. Like the five senses are one unified sense. So this is the beauty of the astral, and this is why I teach it, in that it really helps alleviate trauma.
Yeah. So I am my wow. I as you were speaking there, I was thinking about some of my experiences, like having an experience lying on my bed at night and then falling asleep, and somewhere in between waking up and feeling like I'm struggling to, like something's pulling me in and holding me, locking me in, and I cannot breathe, and I can't, so it's taking the breath of life out of me. And I have to wonder if that's maybe me waking up, going through a realm as it was happening. It always, now that you said that, it kind of answered the question. It's not like I have an evil spirit trying to grab my soul. Well, it is, but it's not like I'm going to get grabbed. I was just still quite conscious when it was happening. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I would agree with you. And this is the main teachings of astral stuff, is to alleviate these blocks and stresses. So like I remember I had a student of mine, and she was so freaked out about the astral. She had a lot of experiences. Every time she would start to become aware of the shadow standing next to her bed.
Yes.
And that freaked her out. Now, eventually, through meditation, through certain exercises, she got out and she found that she was that shadow looking at herself.
Okay.
So she had just observed her astral body in quasi kind of mortal state, had freaked her out, but it was nothing to be afraid of. Just like we're we're almost taught to be afraid of the dark. Like often in the
Yeah.
astral, you have a place called the void. And this is the most beautiful place. This is a place that is pre-manifest. And it was here I first heard the Om. It does exist. I'm not a Buddhist, but I heard like an AUM, very low, basso profundo. It was like a male voice, but very, very, very low. And it was all encompassing. It was like an Om, right?
Mm, mm.
And many people have heard this. I mean, it took me
Yeah.
years to Google Om. I didn't need to Google it because I felt it.
Wow.
But this seems to exist pre-manifest cosmos. So it's like, that's what I call home, is the void. It's a dark place. And a lot of travelers go there and it's beautiful. But in this reality, in the reality of 3D, we're taught that to be in the dark is scary. That's a,
Yes.
that's
Yes.
a place you
Yes.
don't want to be.
Mm, mm.
Interesting.
Very interesting. And you've just given me so many things to think about now. Even this thing about, you when you sleep, not you go to sleep and nothing happens. I mean, for a long time, I felt differently about that. And I think even in the Indian culture, the ancients believe that you actually do not go to sleep. When you go to sleep, you're not inactive. You're not just lying there, body, mind, and soul. Your soul leaves your body. It goes off and does its thing. And it does a lot of work. I remember when babies were born, they often said baby, when it goes to sleep, sleeps that much because it works in other places when it goes to sleep. So it's interesting how they, as time has gone by, it's okay to accept a baby is going to do that, but not necessarily adults are going to do that. So yeah, no, very fascinating.
100%. I think that, I guess, but one thing I'll say in defense of a lot of what would you call it, science, modern science, is that they do say that a lot of modern science, they're trying to come up with formula. They're trying to guess what it is, and I think, like, for instance, when you have, what is it, like sleep paralysis, it's very much an astral thing. I used to have sleep paralysis so much.
Okay.
As soon as I started going astral, the sleep paralysis stopped because
Okay.
my body knew that signature, knew it was going. So sleep paralysis is when you are astral, your physical body wakes up maybe after a shock, but the astral body contains the vital energies. Okay, so you're quite right. You do leave your body when you sleep. We actually do. We're living, we're doing, we're meeting. I even tried for 2 nights in a row not to astral travel. After those 2 nights, I was suicidal.
Wow.
Yep. And I forced myself not to astral travel. And I did that by relaxing my body so much that I only had awareness around my eyes.
Mm.
And I lay awake. All my body felt great. It had rested just like sleep. But I hadn't allowed myself to untether my soul. I hadn't allowed myself to do that. So that's where we get our sense of humor. That's where we get our vital energies. And you can see, like, I've actually seen people's astral bodies out of their physical bodies and watched what goes on. And you see these lights and energies come into the astral body. Then the astral body, you see it cocoons the physical. So the astral body sits around the physical.
Yeah.
And you see these energies come back into the physical and these reminders of home. That's why people can be going through a hard time, but still have a sense of humor.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's why they, I think a form of torture is to leave the light on and not allow people to sleep for a couple of.
Yeah.
So they know that, and so our soul is absolutely always leaving.
Yes. I'm so fascinated with this because you know so much about it, and you don't have a science degree. I'm presuming, and uh, I didn't
Yes,
read
yes.
that about you. I didn't read
No,
that about you.
I do have a PhD in neuroscience. I'm joking.
Oh,
No, I don't. No, I don't. Look, for some reason,
oops.
I've very much been into the idea of just firsthand experience. So even
Wow.
when I started going astral, I would steer clear of books on the subject, and I just
Yeah.
like to. For me, all of my knowing and learnings have come from beings and experiences in the astral.
Well, this is the fascination of it, isn't it? Because yeah, you were talking about, this was the part that you just left active, and then the body went to sleep. And I was like, how do you get to know to do that? Like, how do you know this is what I have to do in order to prevent myself from going astral traveling? And it's like, wow. So you have got some amazing people that have obviously imparted knowledge to you.
Mm.
And that's all a part of you and what you offer, because you're not without that, just because and what I'm saying is, I'm not saying you're not intelligent. I'm saying that this is all what you come with, all those beings, all those guides, for want of a better word, are contributing to this through you. And so they will, therefore you have all of this knowledge. Wow, that's
And
amazing.
we all do. We all have access to this. So I guess a lot of people call it the Akashic records or whatever. So in
Yes.
the astral, you can see, as you know, you can go and see dinosaurs, or you can go to the future and see how a city is destroyed. You can see, but as I said, this sense of detachment really grows, and it seems that this detachment enables these hidden eyes to open. So, like, I'll use the 3D. I'll use my daily reality to lever myself into the astral, and vice versa. So, what I mean by that is, I found if I'm more detached as a human being, I'm more likely not to get freaked out if something happens in the astral,
Mm,
and the trip is aborted. So,
yeah.
and vice versa, I find in the astral these things are so big. Like, you have such big vision. You go to temples.
Wow.
I remember once going to this incredible golden. It was a Hindu temple, and I only found out it was Hindu because I googled the images later.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think to myself, I don't know anything about this religion. I don't know anything about it, but there's stuff there. I remember, even there's even certain Christian things that pop up in the astral, and I'm just an open. I think just to be open-minded by it all, and
Mm,
to,
mm.
like, but looking back, that whole idea of, how was I to know what to do, not to go astral? I remember as a kid, I was terrible at falling asleep. I used to ask my friends and my family, "How do you fall asleep?" I used to lie there at night for hours. So I think I was probably kind of wired on many levels for this experience. I always had problems falling asleep. So I would have to take action to fall asleep. I would have to think of a story, and then I would fall into that story. I would have to start thinking of music. And then as soon as the music became real, I knew that I'd fallen asleep.
Okay.
Because in the astral, music takes on a whole other dimension. You can imagine
Okay.
in your mind, but when the music becomes real, when you can hear the instruments perfectly, then you know you're asleep. So that's how I used to fall asleep as a kid.
Okay.
Otherwise, I
Okay.
couldn't fall asleep. I thought I was crazy. I look at everybody falling asleep, and I remember asking my friends when I'm about 10 years old, "How do you fall asleep?" I'd ask the teachers at school, "How do you fall asleep?" Everyone thought I was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, they just didn't take it seriously.
Yeah. 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 Wow. So I so now that you do the Reiki, well, not now that you do the Reiki, you've been doing Reiki and you do astral travel. You teach this. You run courses for it. How do you have guides? Like if you were doing a Reiki session, I'll use Reiki as because I want to take it away, not take it away, but I just wanted to give it another angle in terms of the question. When you do a Reiki healing session, do you have guides that you work with? Because other people say, "Oh, I've got a guide, and I call my guide this name. This is my guide's name, and all of that." So, how do you work? Do you because does the astral? What I guess I'm trying to find out is, do the beings from the astral travel help you do your Reiki, or do you have a specific guide that works with you in terms of that?
That's a really good question. I mean, I do call them in. I do see them as a bit separate, but I think there is also a connection. I mean, it's interesting as you say that notion of guidance, because I found during Reiki, like, even that teaches me. Like, sometimes I can be really distracted. You don't need to be in a trance state or meditative state. Sometimes my mind is absolutely. I remember a while ago, my mind was so distracted, but the Reiki is just absolutely happening without me. It's like it's it's like, as I said, the path of least resistance. So I mean, all I do is turn up, and then certain healing things happen, and often they're. So I do call in guides. I felt over the years, there are kind of a bit separate, the guides, but you do kind of draw in Reiki guides when you learn Reiki, and now I'm a Reiki master and I teach it.
Yes.
So I found that there is a bit of a delineation.
Okay. Okay. Right. Well, um, coming back to astral travel, you've really shaken it down for me today, because this is one area like I did not want to go down for a long, long time. Uh, because I always think, well, I don't know. I always think if I do a meditation with it, I don't know if I trust the guider, the one who's guiding the meditation, right? The narrator. I don't know if I trust that. And who's this person? And what would they come? Do they come with weird energies and stuff like that? And today you've really made me see that it's different, and really tweaked my curiosity, because now I want to go and do it.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, because it's wow. Um, what I like what you were saying before we went to record the video, when you were saying astral travelers, we do it, all of us, we're doing this thing, our soul leaves our body when we go to sleep, but astral travel is about consciously being, consciously doing it, consciously being aware of it. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So what I think happens is this: when you're in the astral, I've experimented. The reason is why, because I've always wondered, why is it more realistic? Why are there more colors? Why can you see more? Why is there a higher dimensional reality? And really, you need to experience it to know that. And also, your mind is very singular in the astral. So your mind, and hence that sense of wellness or bliss or ecstasy, because your mind is absolutely singular. When you come back into the physical, it kind of fractures a bit, and the mind becomes very distracted in the physical form. What I realize is, because we're living in a continuum of time in 3D, we're having past, and we're constantly moving in the present, dragging the past with us, and
Yes.
we're also have these expectations of what the future will bring. That's where the mind is distracted. Now, in the astral, often when beings are talking to me, I will deliberately wake up my physical body, so I'm in both states at once. When that
Okay.
happens, everything speeds up. So someone talking speeds up to a blip. So what I found is that your astral body actually downloads the experiences to the physical body after the case, right?
Okay.
You still have control, but the thing, it's in a split second. There's no before or after, really. So, because I've just wondered why the mind feels so good, and you can call in healing in the astral, and you have immediate consequences in the physical. So it is the place of what I would call also miraculous physical happenings. And
Mm,
I've
mm.
experienced some what people would call weird stuff, but like actual physical levitation when I had an astral experience when I was awake. So what I found is the I think I've forgotten your question actually now, but it's yeah, the thing is, I go back to that so really relaxing the body, relaxing the mind, and having a heartfelt aim of what you would like to experience in the astral, because the heart is the principal driver. So therefore, something like a loving intention, someone you'd like to see, some place you'd like to go, rather than an intellectual thing to prove. And I think
Okay.
these have the best results in students. So people who have that aim that is heart-based, and then to focus most of the energies on the heart and the third eye. They seem to be the heart's principal driver. Third eye would be called what we call the secondary driver.
Yes.
Astral experience. But the chakras are very, like in the astral body, the chakras are very real. They're like these balls of light that extend out of the body, and they correlate with the glands and the physical. So it's like it's this astral body is beyond time. That's what people have an issue with, that notion of beyond time. But that's,
Mm,
if one realizes that the astral experience can happen in an instant. All you
yes.
need is an instant of realization that you're awake while you're asleep. All you need is this instant of
Yes.
realization,
Yes.
and you
Yes.
can be there. So, and you can cultivate that and train that. But essentially, it's to relaxing the body and mind, releasing blocks, releasing thoughts, realizing that you are not your thoughts. Thoughts are literally
Mm,
occupying
yeah.
forces.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not your thoughts. I'm not my thoughts. Just like
No.
I'm not my car, I'm not my house. I'm not my body. My body is a part of me, but I am not my body.
Yes.
So it does get, and that's where it gets into the spiritual realms, I guess, so a lot of the astral workshop is hands-on, but it's kind of releasing those fears around the whole mortal experience, and knowing that we are more.
Yes. Wow. I'm so fascinated with this. I'm going to have to do one of your courses, I think, because I want to remember my astral travels. I know this for a long time now because yeah, it would be nice to know. It's almost like I think it's very important. This amnesia we've chosen to be here in this time and space. It causes a lot of frustration as we're all awakening and we're all experiencing things. So I would love to know what happens when I go to sleep and my soul's not here. So I guess this astral travel helps you do that, but I'm hearing that you have to have intention as well. Do you think you have to have intention before you go to sleep?
Well, it helps. I think just to generally, like, even here's a little intention that people can think of even now who are watching this. Because lucid dreaming and astral travel are kind of two fingers on the same hand. And to get lucid in dreams is very helpful. That means your mind is gaining lucidity. So even as we sit here, you can think, and anyone listening and watching can think, what does it mean to be in this reality? What does the third dimension mean? How does it feel? And to analyze how it feels. And that in itself is a trigger, because when you're in the astral, you realize, like, you can have a dream and all of a sudden you realize, hang on, I'm dreaming. So
Yeah.
and this whole as you were saying before, I think I remember early on I had an experience where I was shown these past lives, and it was a fascinating experience. I'll tell you what happened. So I'm in the void. So I leave. I'm aware. I feel this vibration going in my body. So I'm asleep. Generally, it happens when my body is asleep on my back and my arms are not crossed, my legs are not crossed. So that's the best way to go astral, is to lie there
Yes.
without crossing, symmetrical.
Yes.
I became aware of this vibration in my heart, kind of going. It's like like a low level vibration, and I became aware of this feeling of moving out of body. That's why it's called astral travel. And then I was just in this dark place called the void. I remember I heard my own voice say, this is often in the astral, my own voice came through my crown, and I would call it my higher self. I mean, he seems to know more than I know, and it is my own voice, and he sort of resonates through my crown. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget it. He said, I want to see me. Next thing, like I'm seeing me in front of me, like I'm standing in front of myself. Perfect vision,
Wow.
different to a screen, ultra, like I'm seeing me in front of me. Then there's like a slideshow, and there's like wind in my ears, and I get younger, become a baby, gone. Then there's this like Chinese Mongolian guy. I just know it. He's a really old guy. Also, slideshow, gets younger, gone. And all the while, the eyes are in exactly the same place. Then
Ah,
there's like African medicine man, and he's got this regalia on. It's pretty full on. It's in my face.
mm,
It's a pretty intense energy. And I'm thinking I might have bought, because this is. Then he's not that old, probably in his 30s. Slideshow, gone, baby, gone. And then there's this alien, this this is often the theme of my astral experiences. And I realized that I was not just a human.
yeah.
And I never watch these alien shows because I find that they're just too negative. So
Yes.
I'm this alien, and even the background was not Earth. And I'm going, what? And as I pull out of it, because you can wake up whenever you want. As I pull out, this voice says, intermission. and it's like there's this humor, It's like
Yeah.
as I said, it's always been a loving experience, even with the so-called negative entities. I've always found it a very loving. I know it's on my side. The experience is on my side. But I remember about a week later, I thought, what was that all about? A week later, someone who I trusted, this is when I was in Austria, said, that sounds like a past life regression. I never heard of that.
Yeah.
Now, when they said that, my whole body started to vibrate. And in a split second, I knew that to be the truth.
Yes.
I didn't have to
Yes.
be talked into it. I didn't
Yes.
have to intellectualize it. I didn't have to research it. I knew. And for some reason, that experience of seeing myself as other beings relieved me of so much stress as a human being. I can't
Yes.
even say why. I
Yeah.
just felt, oh, oh, okay, it's not just me. It's not, this trauma is not just this lifetime. But I can't
Yeah.
even say exactly why. I just felt better.
Yeah. Yeah. I understand that. I really do. It's just, I don't know, is it possible that it's coming into the awareness of who you truly are? Because then it starts to make sense. Some things that you do in your life in this presence, in the present time, makes you feel like, okay, that makes sense why I do this. I mean, like when you say, medicine man, you know that, look, you're medicine man in a way now because of the Reiki, the healing, the all of that, because that's, or if you suddenly do a chant, where did that come from? I don't know. But that's because it's coming from the past lives of what you've been up to this point that you come to now, here and now. What a unique gift. I'm going to call it a gift.
Yeah, well, look. In the beginning, I saw it like I was a bit troubled because I remember I was becoming obsessed, and I'd come home and I'd just hit the floor and meditate because I found if I meditated during the day, I'd have more chance of going astral at night.
Mm.
So, and I just wanted to cut out of this reality a bit, and I didn't have any guidance in the beginning. I didn't know what was going on. I knew it was more real. So I was becoming addicted to this state. I remember my wife, who was at that stage my girlfriend, she was great. She always, I was lucky to have someone who would listen to my experiences and was not poo-pooing them. And I remember her saying, "Look, you're pretty absent these days." And it was funny because I remember I was going astral once, and this massive hand, giant hand came around my shoulders and pushed me back down to earth. And I'm just thinking, what? A thumb? Fingers? What's going on? Why would it, and it's all archetypal out there. And just pushed me back down to earth. I remember for about a month or so, I couldn't get out of body and I was so frustrated. But I had to learn, I remember at that stage, I was sort of swinging away from music. And I remember I was, oh, that's right. I were living for a while in the countryside in Austria, about 1,000 meters high, and there was snow all around the house. And so you could cross country ski from the door. And I was skiing out there and I noticed time stopping. This sounds weird. So I'd be skiing and I'd be looking, all the snow would suddenly stop and I'd be looking in between the snowflakes. And I started to notice these little kind of magical little tweaks happening in my 3D life. And then I realized that the astral and the 3D were intertwined. And then I started to have the astral experiences again. So I needed to see that. Like, so the astral taught me, basically said, no, stay down.
Down to earth, please. Down to earth. We need to bring you down to earth and keep you there for a while.
That's right. And that's where it's a beautiful teacher. Like, and even
Yeah.
I remember once there was a French monk, I went astral and there was this French monk who was sort of intoning, chanting, and he was sort of looking down, chanting, and I just thought, wow, and it was just so beautiful. And I thought, why am I seeing this? And then I thought, can he see me? I don't know. This guy's in the astral
Mm.
there, just nothing else around, just this very clear French monk. I knew he was French. At the end, he just looked at me, he looked in my eyes, and I could sense this transference of energy. And once again, nothing intellectual, nothing to research. It's full experiential. In many ways, it's a dumb way of learning. And I mean
Mm.
that with the utmost respect. And that very much suited me. I don't know, for
Mm.
some reason, as a kid, I was a good boy. I remember learning very, very hard. And then I think I got to about puberty, and then all of a sudden, I just couldn't concentrate anymore. It was really hard at school.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was difficult then. I remember thinking I've worked so hard, and then all of a sudden I'm having memory lapses in exams, and oh my gosh. And I think that's why I liked music and sport, because they were visceral. Um, and I felt this way of learning was fully experiential in the astral. It's fully, what is it? And we're trying to put words on something that can't be named, really.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, this is amazing because, I have to say thank you for being so open to what was meant to come into your space, because we have the benefit of it. Because I think this is the future, where people are. When I say this is the future, I mean, I'm saying this to various things, that this is the future. We have to be talking about this. We have to be telling people about this amazing thing that you do, because we have been dumbed down for a long time about our abilities, our capabilities. And when you're talking about this, you are saying, I teach this because it means all of us can do it. And so we need to be open wide in terms of our thinking, in terms of knowing of our abilities and our our knowledge and what we are capable of. And so I really appreciate that. And I'm thinking that you've been doing this now for what, more than 20 years. It must have been quite, because now we're talking about this, and to many people this will be a normal thing. But 20 years ago, it would have been like, you're a weirdo. I mean, to be telling us this, right? So how did you navigate that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I remember at the very beginning, telling people, I remember telling a woman who was a healer in Vienna actually at the time, and she said, "Oh, you shouldn't be doing this. This is very dangerous. This is unnatural, and you shouldn't do this." I remember thinking, really? But it feels so good.
Yeah.
And I feel it's positive. And then what I found through the times are, and I would often question in the beginning, like, why am I telling people this? And I felt that the thing is, I've been in various religious traditions in past lives, and they're very structured and there's a lot of silence around them. Like, even I know, yeah, there's certain religious traditions where you do not say what you experience. That's part of it, and that's their thing. And I think that for me, I feel really important. I think it's important to share this because I remember just wanting to shout it from the rooftops because I knew that everybody could,
Yeah.
So I think in many ways that's probably the reason why I haven't really been brought up in some tradition in this lifetime, is so that I can be free, because I know there are many others that just don't talk about it. Those who do certain kinds of religious practices, they're not allowed to.
No.
They're not supposed to talk about it.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I have that freedom. A lot of people have said, "Oh, if you talk about these experiences, they'll be taken from you." And I think that once again, that's that secrecy. I mean, yes, there's a sacred aspect, but I don't think they should be secret. Not anymore.
No, not anymore.
That's my role, and I don't agree. And look, and it took me a while. As I said, I didn't write the book until 2012.
Yeah.
And only because I had a weird thing where I couldn't speak for a while.
Yes.
I couldn't think of words. So it was pretty bizarre. And even then I was thinking, oh, how will this be received? Many years ago, before writing the book, 20 years ago, I put on an astral course in a workshop in Victoria, and I put the ad up to this yoga teacher. I said, oh, look, I want to do an astral travel workshop. And she said, okay, let me have a look at the description. And she had a look at the description, and she said, look, people aren't ready for that. And it was just like, what? I couldn't get work. But it was like, I probably wrote it down in such a way that looked a bit scary because I was just so excited about it all. So yeah, the world has come along, and you even see in some movies, Hollywood movies, they mention astral travel now. So it's coming out.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like it's always challenging for anybody who is a pioneer of something or an awakener of something. You're the way shower of this. There's obviously other people that would be doing the same thing, but where you were the way shower to this. So, part of the process, because remember also we're going through our own process, and if you put some words out there that looked a little bit out of the norm, you have to go back and think, okay, how could I do this differently? So, if I feel guided to do this and I'm doing it, then why hasn't it worked? And you go back to the guides again and say, well, so why hasn't it worked? What's the story? So it's part of that personal journey as well, right? Wow. So how do you do work? How do you offer the service? Because I looked at your website, and I know you're running courses and you're running a retreat that's coming up. So tell us about that.
Yeah, the retreat's great. I've done one of these retreats at the end of last year. It's really good because basically it's an overnight thing, 3 nights. And what I found by the third day was the fourth day, people didn't want to leave. We had to leave because the place had only been booked for a few days. But just people's minds just start to operate differently. And we were doing like 4 sessions a day. So I'll be doing guided meditations, even just teaching my basic meditation practices. um, Essentially the meditations are kind of guided to kind of reverse engineer the astral experience in people so that they start to remember these experiences, and you're really cajoling the subconscious into allowing it to happen with people and talking through people's fears and things like this. So the one I've got coming up, and beautiful food as well. I've got a bit of yoga. I've got a yoga teacher coming along who is a Reiki master I've taught myself, and she's great. And there's also, look, in nice nature, to be in a place for 4 days, concentrating on astral stuff. I remember when I came, so we do like probably about 4 sessions a day meditation, but I remember when I came home from the last one, I just felt so good. And I just remember thinking, it feels really weird not to do 4 sessions of 1.5 to 2 hours a day, each session. It
Yeah,
just felt so normal. And that
yeah,
what it does is it removes people, because it's different. Like often kids have these bizarre experiences, but as adults, we have responsibilities, we have jobs, we have families. You need to separate from that. Really helps to quick track this experience. Really helps.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Simple as that. And then you
yeah.
can take home certain techniques of meditation that you do yourself. So the whole idea is just to kind of, it's like a quick start, you know. So you can take these techniques home, and I really look forward to it, even just for my own sake. I
Mm.
love, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
So I've got one coming up in June on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland.
Yeah, so I'll put your website details in the description box. So if anybody's interested, they can go and click on it and have a look at what you're offering. And also
Yeah.
there's a lovely astral travel meditation on there that they can try as well. I tried it last night, as I was saying. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
there's an online course. I was going to say, any of your viewers or listeners, like, I can put a little, what do they call, a little link so that they get $50 if they want to get. I've got an online course that people can do
yes,
whenever,
yeah.
with just videos and MP3. So a lot of people have done that and had
Okay.
success.
That's
So that,
great. Well, yeah, yeah. That's
I'll
great.
get.
Sorry, I keep interrupting. I'll stop.
No, no, no. I thought to your listeners, like, I'll give a $50 off link to those who, if we can, yeah, we'll find a way of doing it.
Thank you so much. So, everybody, isn't that generous and wonderful and kind of Greg to be saying, oh, yes, he's going to give us a discount if you want to join that, do that course, the online course, it's available. And, just let him know that you heard about it here on the channel. So, it'd be really good. Um, so, I want to ask so we're talking about astral travel and the wonders of it, because it is obviously wonderful and it's helpful in if you want to see yourself and look at and truly understand who you are and where you've come from. For example, you can go into the Akashic records, you can do past life regression, see the yous that you were in the past, right? How does it benefit people? Apart from that, how does it benefit people? So you talked about healing trauma, you can heal yourself, obviously. How does it benefit us consciously here in this time and space now? I guess is my question.
Yeah, well, it does. It just naturally rubs off. So you have these experiences and you just feel different. You feel less reactive. You feel less of a victim. The victim gets dried up in you. You see more of the game of life. You don't take it as personally.
Yes.
Um, I know that sounds weird, but you just have more resources. And I find that it's almost like I'm living in a preemptive world. It's like, because the astral is a preemptive body, everything comes through the astral first, okay, before it comes to the physical.
That's right. Yeah.
It's like you're constantly living in a preemptive state. Um, so it's almost like what you're experiencing has already been experienced. You're literally out of the time continuum. So you feel much more at peace, less stress, less,
Mm.
less of that anxiety. Anxiety just doesn't exist because it's not real. And so
Yeah.
I think little by little, because I've met beings who are very similar to us, but they're not. They're like us in a high dimension. And I found I met them a lot and used to talk to them. when they talk, I had no idea what they were saying. When I'd speak, I would speak very clearly on the human condition and societal condition. It was quite political the way I spoke, and I was surprised the way I spoke. It was like a round table discussions. What I found, that it was always telepathic. What I found is they didn't have emotional bodies. So it's almost like little by little, when you have these astral experiences, your emotional body starts to heal naturally. So when I feel emotional bodies are the things that keep us anchored in the 3D. So when I
Yes.
emotional body, the body that reacts, like, oh, you're a good boy, I'll give you an ice cream, good boy or girl, because you cleaned your room up, and then I'll show you my love, So that's how it shows in dualistic. So we have what is known as conditional love in our reality, even though it stems from unconditional love. So or I get something, I get an object and I feel happy, but when I have that object, there's already the seeds of, well, that object will eventually lose its appeal and I'll be unhappy. So it's this constant, whereas the astral, you just feel good for no reason. You just feel good, you just feel ecstatic, you just feel amazing. And you don't need to be given a thing to feel amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the distinction between emotions and feelings just arise of and from themselves, and emotions are this for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Emotions are based on duality. The karma itself, the wheels of karma, rely on emotional charge, rely on that constant. That's why the media often is charging our emotional bodies. So, and I've seen the actual beings in the astral that gain nourishment from the unconscious experience of trauma. They actually gain nourishment from that, and that helps karma. So, and you can choose to stay in the karmic thing if you want, but ideally, if you want to wake up from that and become more lucid and move on, I think that's what this whole notion of enlightenment and self-awareness is about. So I kind of answered your question in a very long-winded Irish way.
I like it though. I don't mind it. I think it's good because what I'm hearing is that it's empowering. And
Absolutely.
and I feel like from what you're saying is very peaceful, and perhaps um I'm almost feeling like, well, I am feeling that it's almost like because you're redoing that, you're not surprised here in this dimension, in this time and space. You're not surprised when things are happening. You know how to navigate your life. So I'm hearing that you, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm hearing that perhaps this gives us the answers to being here in this time and space now. When we do that, we can, it's like another form of meditation. I know it's
Yeah.
not meditation. I know it's not, but it's another tool, but in fact, it's a bit more,
Well,
it takes meditation to get to that, but it's giving you a lot more than meditation would give you.
I agree. And you also, yeah, I think it is. It is like meditation bursting through that bubble, if you like. Not that I knew there was a bubble there to burst through with meditation, but it is that, when you take meditation to the nth degree and really relax your body and mind, but stay lucid. That's the trick. To relax your body and mind, but stay lucid. And also it puts you into, like, it makes life a living meditation. I know it sounds a bit corny, but
No.
where you can actually enjoy every movement, every thought, rather than it depending on something, or rather than the outcome stressing you. So this is what I mean by being in the moment, the astral, because it's very much in the moment, and you really cannot know that until you experience that. That singularity of mind is
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
So when you're, and that does breathe through into the human dimensions as well. So
Yeah.
you do have more grace in your life, and you have more trust. And if
Yeah.
if things don't go the way you want, you kind of know it's just the river taking a bend, and you kind of allow yourself to follow that river rather than
Yeah.
forcing,
Yeah.
which I think is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. It's really good because I just feel like it gives you the inner peace, the knowingness, the
Yes.
being and saying, oh, whatever it is, I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. This is
Yes.
exactly the space I'm meant to be. And whatever I'm navigating, then that's it. And whatever comes. I'm conscious of the time because I know you told me that you have to be gone by a certain time. Uh, when you were talking earlier about your experience working and
Yes.
going through that and then losing your words and things like that. Do you think, because I've been going through something similar in the last 3 years, or maybe I should say 5 years. Do you think that when our no, I'll say this, the higher self is wanting us to move in a different direction, that these things start to happen in the places we are in, because these are places we no longer need to be. These are halls we no longer need to be decking, so to speak of. We need, not to be in those places and come away from that thing that we're programmed to be in.
Absolutely. And it takes control of you, as I said, like that was so weird because it was a pleasant meditation and all of a sudden there was this tweak. I've heard it's called left brain freeze. I met, I came to learn Astral Travel from France. She said she had the same experience, and they call it, in French, of course, left brain freeze. So it was weird. It was just like this, it did knock the narrator out, which is beautiful. So, but it just, because I think there's a narrator often people have in their mind that is telling them, do this, do that. It's maybe a form of ego. It knocked them out of the water. And I just couldn't be not authentic anymore. So I'd go to work, and because I couldn't think of the words, I wasn't saying anything. And I was a funny guy, I'm still a funny guy, but I was a funny guy, I was a funny guy and relied often on my comedic kind of thing and it slowed me down because I literally couldn't get to and people thought, what's up with Greg? But it gave me that space to think, hang on, something's not right in my life, So, and I feel these things are pulled from the other realms, and in my case, absolutely. Like I literally was taken hostage. I could have chosen not to go with that.
Yes.
In the beginning, I did feel a little bit like I was a hostage because I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what was my career going to be. I didn't know.
Exactly.
I went from a career-minded person to doing energy healing and astral travel. I would never in a million years have thought doing that kind of stuff. I never heard of it. So that is bizarre in itself, isn't it?
Yes.
So
yes, absolutely.
it is spirit. It is listening to that spirit and moving that way and realizing things are kind of preordained. So it's kind of giving into the preordainedness of trust and surrender. So it truly is, as tried as it sounds, it is surrendering.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I have a couple more questions.
Yes.
Who would you recommend astral travel to?
Anyone. I think anyone who approaches me, I tend to think, why have they approached me on astral travel? Because I think anyone wanting to know themselves more, wanting to alleviate stresses in their life that they know are not them, anyone looking for more direction in their life, anyone wanting to feel more content, to know more about being human, being beyond human.
Yes.
So really anyone with experience or not meditation experience, I've had all people come.
Yeah.
So even that have levels of fear, it helps them get over their fear. So, existential fears people might have, fear of death or whatever. So you just lose that. So I would say anyone who has the interest.
Yeah, I think so too. You just don't know. I was thinking earlier, it must be somebody who's advanced and understands things about spirituality and the esoteric and has had years of experience. But no, I think you just you didn't have that and it started to happen to you. You didn't ask for it. It just happened, this thing. So perhaps it's about people who are just open and wanting, and it's also about the soul and the soul, because the soul's experience is different from our personal experience here. The third dimensional experience here is very different from the soul. So I guess it is anybody who gravitates to it is because they need it, and they'll be the ones who find it anyway.
Yeah, I believe so. Absolutely. That's what I found the case too, because I remember I once, I had some friends from my old life, and there was this guy who was a musician and he'd become a lawyer. And then I wrote my book, and he got a copy, and he said, but Greg, this can't be true. What you've written, this sounds like fantasy. Anyway, the next day he calls me. He'd just been, and he had an experience that night after starting to read the book. He didn't ask to have the experience, and he just rang me and said, okay, I get it. That was so profound, because he was he was like a good friend, and it was kind of a litmus test as to, how would people take this from me? And he just said, okay, he understood the next day. It was kind of cool.
Yes. So, is there anything else you want to tell us before we say goodbye?
No, really, I'd love the discussion. I think that anybody, yeah, if your interest is piqued, I think to read about it, to do meditations on it, like to have the intention to leave your body, to not be afraid. It's a win-win. It's all in your service. I can't see why anyone would hesitate in getting into this. Even not to call it astral travel, you could call it just greater knowledge, or out of body, or it's. I think, I actually look at words and think of what words charge me. Like I used, because I was brought up a Catholic, the word God had a bit of a, how dare I think I am God. But I
Yes.
know that often when I'm falling asleep, I'd have a meditation where as I become kind of more and more sleepy, I would come to the conclusion that, I am the universe, I am God.
Yeah.
And so any, experiences, or if the name astral travel stresses you out, then I would actually urge you to look into it, because you want to release that charge.
Yes.
So if it's stressing you out, then maybe there's something good there for you to find.
Exactly. And for me, I always feel like I need to trust the person I'm going to be guided by to do my astral travel. Now I've met you, I found the person I can trust. And look, to all of you watching as well, you've heard Greg speak today. Go and check his website out. And if you're thinking you want to go down that track, please, there we go, a trustworthy person who's speaking about this on the platform of love. That's it. Genuineness and love. So, yes. So I interrupted you there. Anything else you want to tell us?
No, you're right. I think people just have to trust their intuition and go with people who they feel good with. It's like past life stuff, or any healing, or the astral stuff. So yeah, absolutely. That's right. And that's, I think there are more and more people like myself who are there to guide people. I know in the beginning I would have liked some guidance because I was confused.
Wow. Yes.
I knew it was good, but I was confused.
Can imagine how bewildering it could feel if you just experiencing something no one told you could happen to you, and then you had to navigate that on your own. Wow, that's a hero.
Yeah, it was cool, especially the whole alien thing. That was kind of the whole alien thing. And now, that doesn't have any charge for me. I'm not. It's cool to meet beings, other people, and it's like, it's part of normality for me now. It's normal. I couldn't imagine not having had these experiences. I'm amazed how people can go through life and not have these experiences, because this is what life is.
Yes, this is what life is, and there is so much fun to be had, and there's so many things available to us to learn and progress through this journey. I call it the journey to self, because we're getting to know who we truly are in the process. And there's all these wonderful things available to us, and being open to it is an important ingredient in order to do the journey, to take the travel to oneself. Yeah,
Absolutely. I think to be open is the key.
To be open, absolutely. Well, Greg, thank you so much. Is there anything else? I'll ask again. Anything else that I didn't cover that you thought you might want to tell us?
Not really. I think we covered a lot. It was great.
I know. It was it was a little bit different from the way we thought it was going to go, because I'm still looking at my questions, and but I asked all the things I wanted to ask, but I loved the way the conversation flowed. So thank you so much for your time, and just love that we had this conversation. So we'll say goodbye to our audience, and then we'll talk on the other side of stopping the recording. Is that okay? Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks, Rose.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is Greg Doyle, and please go and find out more about him. He's got an amazing opportunity for us to learn something new. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Catch you next time.